Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's lesson. Today's lesson 2 of our active and passive voice, lesson number 18 in total. I'm Mrs. Swart, and I'm going to be taking you through today's lesson. Now, you've already looked at the previous lesson in which you saw the rules that you needed to remember. Just a reminder that an active sentence must contain a transitive verb to be used in the passive voice. That means that a subject takes a direct object. And you'll also notice that when you count the number of words, that there's a lovely surprise for you, especially when a sentence has few words, then you will end up having 2 more words in your passive sentence than what you had in your active sentence. So if you want to check if your sentence is correct, that might just be the way to go, to look at your maths and do a little bit of calculations. Now, we've said before that you need to know the so-called, we call it the formula. It's not really a formula, but it will assist you, because what happens here, you have your subject, your verb, and your object, and that makes up a sentence. And now we're going to say the same thing, but we're just going to say it slightly differently, but the meaning will remain the same. Your subject and your object are going to swap places. Then you will have the correct form of the verb to be, and those we'll look at now. And you will also have the correct form of the actual verb that is used here, by, and then obviously the subject that swapped places with your object. So let's quickly look at this. This is a present tense sentence, and I'm going to only look at present and past so that you can get the really simple sentences solved before we go and look at anything in the continuous tense. If you know your formula, you will know that your subject and your object are going to swap places. The sentence says, the man pats the dog. Now, the word pats is our verb. And what does it tell us? It tells us it's in the present tense. So now we know that we must have the correct form of the word. Let's quickly look. We see that it's present tense. Now we know that, yeah, the verb has to be in the correct form. But now remember, what have we done? We have swapped the man and the dog around. So the dog is, is the correct form of the verb to be. The correct form of pats in the sentence is patted by the man. Remember, we'd be able to say the man, he, and the dog, it. And if we had to use the pronouns, we would say it is to get the correct form of the verb to be. The tense of the verb in the active voice determines the tense of the verb to be. And there we've seen a very easy example of it. We've seen the correct form of the verb. It's in the present tense. Yeah, we have used it correctly, and we have put in the verb to be. And there we have the sentence telling us exactly the same thing. Nothing strange, nothing funny about it. It's exactly what it tells us in the active sentence as well. Look at this. You have to know your pronouns or you won't be able to identify the correct form of to be in the present tense. He is, she is, it is. You, we, and they take are. In active and passive voice, you have to look, if you're not quite sure, look, can this sentence be written in the passive voice? We take a sentence like Harry Potter is magical. I nearly said he's a magician, but Harry Potter is magical. Can you write this as passive voice? No, you cannot possibly say magical and then try and swap the subject and the verb, because magical is not a transitive verb, correct? So you cannot rewrite this as a passive sentence because there is no transitive verb. But the next sentence, you can do that. It says Harry Potter performs magic. So here we see there is a direct object for Harry Potter, and that is magic. He performs magic. It's a subject that can take a direct object. So what will happen? You will be able to say magic is performed by Harry Potter. So there you have it. You see how simple it is to work out. If you tried this one, sadly, it would make no sense whatsoever. and you would know, even if you didn't know the rules, but you listened to what it said, you would know this cannot be done. It doesn't make sense. It cannot possibly be written in the passive voice. What if I use a pronoun as the subject? What happens then? Let's quickly look. We take the same sentence. All we're doing now is instead of putting the name of someone, we're saying he pats the dog. Now we still have the subject and the object changing places, but he is moving right down to this side. Okay, so we will still say the dog is patted by him. Why have I put this in brackets, do you think? Very simply, if your subject is a pronoun, in the passive voice, you do not have to mention this. You don't have to say this at all. You can just say the dog is patted, and then that is correct. So remember that if you do say by him, you will still get the mark. If you do not say by him, you will get the mark as well. So it's not necessary to put that in. Try and remember that in future. Yeah, we have the pronoun he. And that is why here we do not need to mention it. Now, let's quickly look here. This is in the past tense. The man patted the dog. Now we know that this verb, if it's in present, it determines, in other words, it decides for us what the verb to be should be. So if this is in present tense, it means the verb to be will be in present tense. But in this case, it's in past tense. So what does that tell us? Yes, your verb to be is going to be in past tense. So look quickly. We've got the two swapping places. I like to always cross my arms over and say they're swapping places. So the dog is what we start with. And because the verb here is in past tense, the verb to be has to be in past tense. So the dog was patted by the man. And if you look at the number of words, you'll see in the first sentence, the active sentence, there are 5 words. And in the passive sentence, we have 7 words. You see, I told you earlier on to remember that that is more or less how the calculation will work. Only if we get to very complicated, longer sentences, there might be some changes. Now, we've already looked at the present tense of the verb to be. Remember, it was is, am, are. But here we look at the past tense. Remember, the verb to be is I am, he is, she is. But if we use it in the past tense, it's I was, he was, she was, it was, you were, we were, and they were. So let's quickly look at what happens here. Now we have the verb in the past tense. So we know that the verb to be will be in the past tense. If we took the words the dog, we would say it. But we can't say it is. Why not? This is in the past tense, so we'll have to say it was patted by him. And here again, remember, because the subject is a pronoun, yes, you've remembered that very well, and it swaps places with the object, you do not have to mention the pronoun. You will still be awarded the marks. If you do mention it, there's nothing wrong with it. So it's almost like you have an option to use it or not. And I want you to remember these rules because I'm going to give you some exercises. And the exercises are just for you to identify. There's a statement made, there's an active sentence, and there are 3 possible choices of passive sentences to choose from. And you have to remember these rules. Remember about the verb, past or present will then decide what the verb to be will be. And try and look very carefully at the sentences, read them carefully and respond to them. Give the correct answers and see how well you do. These are just 2 of the possibilities. There's another lovely one that we're going to look at next time. And that is when we have something like almost like a continuous tense, you know, when we have ing being, he is being patted. So we say the dog is being patted by this person, but we're going to look at that in the next lesson. I'm going to ask you to go and practice these sentences now because I always say to you, practice makes perfect. You are going to now click on the link and you're going to complete the exercise. Read carefully and don't just select haphazardly because you have a choice and you can click on one and you have like a 33% chance every time you click of being correct. So um, it's not worth taking the risk. Rather, make sure that you read carefully and you answer correctly. And you'll see on the next slide, you have the QR code. Please go do the exercise. You can do it a little later on as well if you don't get it done before your next lesson. And I wish you good luck with that. Good luck with the quiz and keep safe. And thank you for today's lesson. Have a wonderful day.